Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. I'm John Najarian. We've got a special guest today, and I'm broadcasting once again from the New York Stock Exchange, and about as far away from the New York Stock Exchange as you can get and still be in America. That's my hint as to who's joining on today's Rebel's Edge. Bang! That is not Pete Najarian. That is Justin Nugent, as Mark likes to call him, and I guess I'd like to too, the Prodigy, Justin the Prodigy Nugent, and he is coming from some point in the Hawaiian Islands, folks. So, like I say, that is about as far away from the United States mainland as you can possibly get. I'm on the one side all the way to the far east, and he's on the far western side. And I don't even know if the sun's come up there yet. Has it, Justin?
Yeah, the sun comes up right around the time that I wake up, which is just a really cool thing. But yeah, we're pretty far away.
Yeah, very far away. But I bet we're on the same page for a lot of things. And
very much so.
Get to those. So we're going to get started with the Macro Minute. And let's dive right in, shall we, Justin?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, I'm going to say, folks, that my macro for today, I could talk about the labor market, but of course, we're looking at some numbers for October because we won't get other numbers because of the shutdown, the government shutdown. But what I will say is that my macro today will be, as I've said most of the week now, Michael Burry, Dr. Michael Burry has been famous for The Big Short, and he's tried to do it several other times and failed. This time he's picked out Palantir and NVIDIA. Now, even though both are down substantially today, Palantir was 182 as of September when his report was due. Well, not due. It's not actually due until November 15th. But anyway, there's no way he's up in these puts. And there's no way with him being short NVIDIA at 186, because that's, again, where it closed in September. So effectively, he is short it at that level. I don't think people completely understand, Justin, that he is still down money between time decay and being on the wrong direction for a put trade rather than a call trade. And yet we've seen a pretty substantial adjustment to the downside in both stocks. But for him to be calling for a serious correction, wow, if this is that and all he gets is back to break even, I don't think he's really going to be applauding too much.
I completely agree, and that's why I loved the comments that you were making on Charles Payne's show, because I think so many people just get caught up in the hype of this, and they hear, oh, the big short guys coming in for Palantir and NVIDIA, and they also hear these things about the notional value of these puts, and they're really, really inflated values. It seems like something even he himself on his own social media has called out as being fake news. If you look at his most recent post, he said, people who report on 13Fs, none more fake. Seems like even he understands that a lot of people aren't really grasping quite the game that he's playing. For my quick macro minute, I'll just say this. This is a very, very unique year, right? You actually have, since 1987, the largest amount of bears. And this is something that we hear a bit from our amazing Jeff Garbaz as well when he talks about the short interest, than any other year since 1987, which was a positive year. So again, we're trading up year to date pretty nicely, even with this pullback, and yet we have more than 11% divergence to the bear side. Altogether, a lot of extreme fear is in this market, and that is just not really what you see when you're looking for some sort of correction, some sort of crash. You really want people to get caught off guard. The only thing that would really catch people off guard It's if the market starts ripping to the upside, and I just personally think that is much more likely to take place. I think that if you are a long-term buyer, you're probably looking at this dip and licking your lips.
Well, and I think Justin's right about that, folks. And for fantastic futures today, I'll say instead of picking an individual future, I'll look into the future in my crystal ball here, Justin. And I'll say that Jeff Garbaz, our guy that does the Rebel setup, as well as Rebel Short Elite and so forth, Rebel Short Pro, I think he is, from what he sent me yesterday, he lists both smart shorts and dumb shorts. And the reason he does that, folks, is that the dumb shorts are the ones that have consistently lost money on their shorts. And they're mostly the amateurs, of course. The real professionals, because it's probably one of the toughest things to do in finance, is to pick a spot and short the market or individual stock and make money. Those people have usually really done a lot of homework before they dive into those and disclose those shorts. So you've got smart shorts. Those are people that have made money on their shorts, and dumb shorts, those that have not made money on shorts but keep attempting it. And just as Justin said, the preponderance of dumb shorts in the market right now is at, I think Jeff said, an all-time high. And we'll talk about that on the cocktail hour tomorrow. Those of you who are subscribers will be able to join us, and those who aren't, we'll hear about it next week, I guess. But anyway, Justin, what do you have for futures today?
I think that yours is probably my more favorite of the two, because I love talking crap about these people who are perpetually betting against the market, even though, it's a very, very difficult thing. When they do it right, when you find those rare people who are very good at it, it's awesome and very cool. And you need shorts in the market to have a successful market. But the majority of these people who are talking about shorting the market are, let's be honest, not shorting it at all. They are making money off of people's clicks and impressions and the views that they get on these headlines, whilst they just watch the market and talk about it and not trade it. And completely separately, that's a small rant. I'll just note that the election day anchored VWAP in Bitcoin. That's going to be my fantastic future. Pretty decent spot to take a shot at this. That's a weekly chart you're looking at. And I haven't really been the most bullish on the short term for Bitcoin for a while, but we've been talking about this particular VWAP for a long time. I like it very, very much. I think if you were going to take a shot, you take it here, you do it with tight risk, and you look for that all-time high by the end of the year.
All right. Well, let's dive into Snapchat, or Snap. I think they dropped the chat part, but they still call themselves Snap, and that is the four-letter symbol as well on the NASDAQ. Shares surged about 20%, pulled back to 18%. And as we get halfway through the day, Justin, they're only up 8%. But nonetheless, the numbers here were pretty good. And we had unusual option activity, or UOA, in this name. We always love it when we can share those with you folks, because many of you will see it, scan the QR code on the screen, and then you could join Justin and John and Pete and Mark and so many of our traders and clients that love following this smart money. Well, look at that. The 24th of October, they were buying upside calls that expire tomorrow, and they were buying 15,000. That's 1.5 million share equivalent, folks. Well, worked out, especially if you were nimble, because this morning it was up 20%, and it was trading $8.78, about $1 higher. So that would have been a nice profit for you. But if you just sat there and watched it and said, I think it's going to go even higher, well, that's a mistake, because you were probably in it for the same reason the people who bought those calls were in it, and that is for the earnings. They were great. The baby's born. Boom. Move on.
I love that. I say the same thing all the time. If you know the earnings are coming, log in right early in the morning. If you see some big pop, just take it. If it keeps going, cool. Get that in some other trade. If you've got a 20% pop in the stock, the options are going to be up even more in the vast majority of cases. Just take the money and go. As John said, the baby's born. Yeah, Q3 obviously crushed expectations. You're seeing a lot of things just fade intraday right now. It's probably something decent to keep in mind if you end up seeing some more follow-up UOA in this name. But hey, this is a name that just crushed its earnings, so the data that we do have about this is positive. And as people start to come back into the market, maybe the people who didn't buy this on the earnings had this maybe on their shopping list. I will just note, Jared, producer, asked me before this, hey, what's the value prop in Snapchat? Who's using this thing? Personally, I think it's probably people younger than me, but I will note their AR filters are used, ready for this, 6 billion times daily, which means that it is the leader in augmented reality tech adoption among Gen Z, which is a lot of messages. 6 billion daily. That's a lot of messages.
That's a lot of messages and a lot of stuff people don't want other people to see for very long.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take a look at ELF, E-L-F. And nope, not the Will Ferrell movie and not the sequel, but ELF is a cosmetics company, folks. ELF Beauty is the full name, actually. And it was down 20% earlier today, then 25. Right now, Justin, it's trading $77 a share, down a full 34%. I mean, just an ugly hit. Look at that falling off a cliff. Thanks for getting that up there, Jared. I mean, it's just terrible. And we had unusual activity in the puts of this one. So much as Dr. Michael Burry has bet and not done so well, we have done extremely well, those of us who followed this trade, because as you see there, they were buying January expiring 130 puts. It had already worked because the stock had fallen down to 117 as of last night. Well, today fell another $25 to 92. And as I just said, it fell another $15 from that early pre-market trade till now. So this is just it's giving up basically its whole year here, folks, because their guidance points to a real profit compression. And that ain't good, right, Justin?
It is not good at all. They're looking a little bit more like Elf on the Shelf than Beauty Queen here. The profits are really turning into pixie dust. Shares are down a lot, right? They're blaming tariffs, but we know that there's a lot of companies out here that are doing pretty well despite the tariff situation. So I always have to kind of take a second look whenever companies start to blame whatever's going on in geopolitics for the reason why they are having a little bit of a squeeze take place. John, did you know, here's a fun fact for you.
Okay.
ELF stands for eyes, lips, and face.
I did not know that.
Yeah. But honestly, they started out as a low-cost makeup brand. I think that their stock is taking up after them. They're falling a ton, just like the next name that we are about to look at.
Well, then we'll switch over to Duolingo. And Duolingo, in any language, is not doing well. It's mal, very mal, in fact, because it is falling 28% today. And I wish, Justin, that I had puts in this one. I do not. I like what they do as far as, gamifying, if you will, how people learn a new language or get better at a language that they already sort of know. Well, this implies strongly that one of the places people were cutting back was perhaps with some of these types of apps like Duolingo has. So management noted that there was a deceleration in daily active user growth in September and October. And again, people don't like hearing that. You've got to be truthful with people. I'm not saying they should make it up and pretend people were engaging more, but man, the fact that people were pushing away from this one, Justin, to me, that says it's a don't touch, at least in the short term.
Yeah, I agree. Mal, cativo,
Mal.
fleshed. These are all bad in a few different languages, and you're exactly right. They did not do well. Obviously, shares are down like 27%. Bookings are way down. Daily active user growth slowed a ton. And when you are a name like this, what you also have to focus on is just the overall environment. This is a name that needs cheap money so that they can keep growing. They're a growth stock. And when you hear, 2-8 Jay Powell back in this most recent FOMC starting to say, hey, well, this December cut, maybe it's not even on the table. He's really ultimately not really hurting the Mag 7. He's not hurting these names that can weather a storm, but he is hurting a lot of these smaller names like Duolingo. I have another fun fact for you, John. This one I thought was interesting. You ever done one of those CAPTCHAs before to get into a page where you have to type in the, whatever code they give you?
Yes, I have.
The co-founder of Duolingo created the CAPTCHA.
Ah, well, obviously a lot of skilled people and interesting people at Duolingo. And I would point out for all the viewers and listeners that $340 a share was where this one started the year. Right now it's 180. So it is that close to being half of the price that it came out at the beginning of the year. Now, back in May, it was 540. So it went from 340 to 540, and now it's 180. So that tells you something about how much the growth has slowed, unfortunately, at Duolingo. All right, now we'll try to leave you a little bit more on the upbeat with DataDog, because DDOG, Datadog, came out with their earnings, and DDOG did what they have done several times, and that is came out with some pretty darn positive earnings. Stocks up 22% at mid-session, near the high of the day right now. Q3 beat estimates. The company also raised full-year guidance. And as Justin and I know all too well, if you miss and you guide lower, you're going to go down. But if you beat and have positive guidance, that's pretty tough on the shorts. And it's a tough day to be short in Datadog today, Justin.
I could not agree more. To be honest, a lot of these names are really bucking the trend. And what I love to look for, if you're going to be bullish in something that isn't just the macro, if you're going to hone in on a specific stock, you want to find the things that are showing relative strength in a down tape. The other day, it was IREN, IREN, and a lot of the data center names. And DDOG is kind of right in that same cohort of stocks. Their customer base is growing a ton, and that's all good. And the earnings were good. But what are they also doing? They're performing in a theme that is already outperforming. I think that this is the type of note that you take so that when the market does start to really reverse higher, maybe the government opens back up, maybe we start to see a lot of these things click into place to get us that end of year rally that so often comes. You probably look at spots like this to continue to outperform in an even bigger way.
Well, let's take a little look and listen at a kid whose stock is rising rapidly. And the reason it's rising rapidly, folks, is this is a kid from Knox, Indiana. And I guarantee most of you have never heard of Knox, Indiana, and you've certainly not heard of this kid. But when you watch and listen to the stats that this gentleman is about to quote for this high school kid, you might be seeing him playing in a Division I school in the very next year. Let's give it a listen, Justin.
This high school football player has the most insane stats you will ever see, and he's projected to absolutely decimate
That's the GOAT.
Derrick Henry's
That's
all-time
Derrick
rushing
Henry.
record. So I'd like to
So
introduce
he
everyone
set
to
the
Miles
record.
McLaughlin, who goes to Knox
And now
High
this
School
kid
in
is on
Indiana.
track
And
to
what I'm about
break
to show
his
you
record.
is going to knock your damn socks off. I talk about lesser-known sports stories every single day, so if you want more of that, make sure you're following. So it's pretty safe to say that Miles has had one hell of a year. His team has played 11 games, and they've won all of them. And in these 11 games, Miles has carried the ball 363 times for 4,013 yards, 61 rushing touchdowns, and is averaging 360 rushing yards a game. 2 weeks ago, this kid carried the ball 42 times for 469 yards and 7 touchdowns. And this kid is just absolutely untouchable.
Imagine that, 469 yards rushing, folks, and 7 touchdowns in a single game.
They run a double wing, double tight end, flex fullback. Where
I mean, the kid's a beast. And it's not because He is such a physical specimen that he just runs over people, which I guess I can kind of apply to Derrick Henry, who's a fantastic all-pro every year. But this kid just has a motor. He's fast, he's strong, he finds the hole, and he's tough to bring down. He doesn't come down with arm tackles. And he's on track to put up 5,400 yards rushing this year and 83 rushing touchdowns. That is amazing.
The craziest part is that he only has
That's crazy.
5 offers. I have a pretty strong feeling this kid's going to be on Indiana next year. Let me know what you think, though. Is this kid going to break his record, or is there no way?
You got to think that playing in Indiana, and as good as Indiana's football team is now, they're going to have a real shot at recruiting, signing this kid. And what a phenom. What a phenom. And what a hometown story that would be, too. Well, let's talk a little bit, Justin. Pete always hits red zone sports right here. And so my question to you is, Packers are playing the Eagles. The Packers are not on the ascent, but then the Eagles aren't playing like they were playing at their peak either. Who do you have in this game, Packers versus Eagles?
I would say I like Green Bay's run game. I think we're going Green Bay.
All right. All right.
I just wanted to say,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say one other quick thing, though, about our little hometown hero back there. I like the idea of a small town story. I think that's awesome. And I just thought it was so interesting. You're watching this kid run off and you're saying, hey, he's hard to tackle. It looks like he is, but it also looks like these kids can't even catch up to him. They're talking about all the hybrid positions this kid's playing. And they said, oh, yeah, he's got all these great stats and he's got only 5 offers. And I was just thinking to myself, okay, 5 offers until this now very likely, very viral TikTok has gone out. I'm sure this kid is now swimming in offers, probably doesn't know what to do with all the offers that he's got. So shout out to him. That's awesome. We love to see it.
I agree. Well, I'll throw out 2 other games and I'll give you my picks. Steelers versus Chargers. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling all the way west to play in LA at SoFi Stadium. I'm going to give the edge to the Chargers in that one. Rams versus 49ers. They're playing in San Francisco. The Rams are really good, but quarterback Mac Jones for the Niners has really been playing very, very well as well. So I'm going to say Niners. So I'm taking the Chargers and Niners out of those 2. Do you feel the same, or are you differing with me on one of or both games?
I have no opinion about Steelers versus Chargers, but I completely agree about the 49ers taking it. They've won 9 of their last 10 regular season games, and I'm a sucker for a trend. So I think that it's hard to deny it. I think you're
all
exactly right.
Well, let's wind it up with this one then. And keep in mind, I guess Pete's going to be in Clemson, South Carolina. He's there now. He was meeting with some companies in Greenville. And then he's going to be speaking to the football team and Dabo Sweeney for their big game this weekend. But rather than focus on that, he said, guys, we can talk all about that next week. Let's talk about Western Carolina. They have this quarterback named Taron Dickens. And he broke the NCAA record for consecutive completions. His first 46 passes were completed. So 46 out of 46, he finished 53 out of 56. So a pretty incredible stat that I don't know if most quarterbacks could do it, even if there was no defender there. 56 completions in a row, because there's 2 things that have to happen there. The quarterback throws it and the receiver catches it. And I've been on a few teams that weren't that great where the receivers dropped those balls. That would have broken his completion streak, but that did not happen with this kid, Taron Dickens at Western Carolina. What did you think of that one, Justin?
I think that's incredible. And you know what the record was before 46? It was
No, sir.
26 back in
Oh, my.
1998. That is just a ridiculous. That's not quarterbacking. That's threading needles through a haystack. That is just crazy. A crazy beat of the record.
Well, it was. Certainly Dickens' new record seems like that one might last a long time. Well, Justin, thank you very much for coming on, sir. Folks, Justin does 3 at 3 Pro. He does one of our most successful launches ever. You want to tell people about that one just a little bit, Justin, since it just launched last week?
I would love to. Here's what I'll tell you. This legend who I'm on with right now, the last time that we talked on one of these webinars, I said, hey, a lot of what we do are these long-term leaps positions. These are long-term call options that we take. We don't really touch them a lot. We just take them. We like them. I said, if you had to buy one right here, what would it be? That was in the middle of the tariff correction when everyone else was calling for the apocalypse. And rather than betting against the market, John said, there's this little known company, and it was at the time, called Rigetti, RGTI. We ended up picking up the 5 strike leaps in there on John's recommendation, if you can imagine that. And, you know, we can talk about the little pullbacks that we see. Oh, they're down 5% today. Well, you know where they're trading at is $35. You want to see something? Yeah. You want to see a bang, you know, and they traded up to 56. I mean, this was at one point this year at 10x. So that's when it goes really well. That's what we're trying to emulate. But even when it doesn't go quite that well, because you can't pray for that, we're really just taking a long-term approach to a lot of these options that we see. And that's what we're trying to do in Rebel Roundup Pro, that and following a lot of the news and things like that. If you like long-term approaches to trading and investing, you might want to give us a shot.
Well, folks, you wouldn't believe the thousands of folks that have just signed up in the last 10 days for Justin's newsletter, and it is fabulous. People comment on it all the time in terms of how well they've done and so forth. Oh, I paid for my kid's wedding with this. It's amazing, and it has to be very flattering, Justin, for that to happen for any of us, and especially for you launching this brand new product that you had been working on for quite a while. And we've got more coming, folks. So make sure that you go back through this episode, scan the QR code, or go to marketrebellion.com/get started. And you can see all of the offerings, from technicals to short setups like Jeff Garbaz and so forth, to Rebel Roundup Pro with Justin Nugent. It's all good stuff. Well, Justin, thanks so much again for sitting in. And folks, we'll be back on Monday. So we'll see you then.